What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Faceoff Sports Network. I'm your host, Anthony Servino. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Follow the show at the FF Faceoff and at fffaceoff.com. We can be found on the top social media and podcast platforms. Back with me on a Football Wednesday. We're going to talk some players that we must avoid that are overvalued players in fantasy football drafts. We have Pete Terranova at Supernova38, Steve D'Angelo at Fantasy Savvy. Guys, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on, fellas? Back here for a Wednesday. We're going to talk some potential overvalued players 1 through 5. Ready to get into it? What's going on, Anthony P? How you guys doing? All right?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little tired today, dragging ass, but happy to be here with you guys.
Well, that's going to happen. You're going to drag ass every once in a while, you know?
Yeah,
I'm dragging today too, actually.
You're getting old, Pete.
Yes, I am getting old. I've been taking these Mega Men GNC multivitamins. I just started taking them the last couple weeks.
They help,
honestly. A little bit, yeah. Actually, I usually take magnesium and vitamin D every day, but
nice.
I needed a little extra. Make sure I'm getting everything. So.
Yeah, I'm dragging today too. I had a day off from work today for the holiday, Juneteenth.
Nice.
And when I have like time off, my body wants to rest. So I just drag all day long.
I'm the same way.
There it is. Yeah.
Days that when I have like an extra, like especially like when there's a long weekend for a holiday, like those tend to be the weekends that I come back feeling the worst because I'm always traveling or I'm hosting or I have people over, and I'm more tired on those weekends coming back than I am if I didn't have the extra. So it's
that's how I felt on Monday after Father's Day weekend. I was definitely dragging hard.
So we're going to get into some overvalued players we should be avoiding going into fantasy football drafts. A couple of hot names on the list, polarizing names that some people are on the fence about, or maybe they're getting overdrafted. We're going to use ADP from Underdog and the FFPC to kind of show you where the consensus is drafting players and where the money players are drafting these guys, because there is a big difference. And through the years, I always favored FFPC ADP because I think that's the more accurate ADP. And obviously, ADP is just a guide, right? Like, it's not gospel. If you're in a home league, right, like I play, or we play in a lot of high stakes or expert leagues, but like when I play in a home league, because I am in one home league, ADP goes out the fucking window. Right? Because there are people who are still drafting. Like I remember a year or two ago, somebody drafted Joe Burrow in the first round of my home league, and it was a 1 quarterback league.
Yeah, you always get those new guys in the league. I remember a guy took Tom Brady in the first round.
Right.
A couple of years
the
ago.
last year that Gronk played, he went in the 4th round.
Yeah.
Like, this is a home league. So obviously we use ADP as a guide. But guys, let's get into it. So we're going to go through rounds 1 to 5, players that we think you should avoid. And we're going to start with an interesting one, because I don't necessarily agree, but I'll let you guys take the reins first on Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so this was my selection here with Justin Jefferson, and I want to preface this by saying I still think that Justin Jefferson can have a good season. Last year, he was able to play at a high level when he was healthy, with some pretty bad quarterback play. The Vikings were one of the highest volume passing teams in the NFL last year, but I don't know. I just really don't expect that to stay the same. They have Sam Darnold, who is an upgrade over what they had last year at the backup position, who probably is going to start in the first half of the year. And then you have JJ McCarthy, right, who's the wild card of when is he going to get in? You know, is he going to start the season off as a starter? Which I really, if I was a betting man, you could check out the lines on DraftKings and actually take one of those bets. If I was to take a bet, it would be on Sam Darnold to at least play half the season. But I just don't think they're going to drop back to pass nearly as much. They have a better running game with Aaron Jones. That offensive line is more healthy. And I just don't expect them to put JJ McCarthy in harm's way like they did with those quarterbacks that they really weren't heavily invested in last season. So I just don't know at his price right now. I'm not saying you can't take him in the first round. He is going in the first round, but I'm not taking him over some of the guys like CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and some of these other players. And right now, his ADP has him in the middle of the first round. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if I was drafting at the back end of the first round, like in the 10 spot or the 9 spot, picking Jefferson. But any higher than that, I'm probably out on him just because you're going to have to wait on the turn. And if he doesn't end up hitting like you thought, it's going to hurt more because you took him so high. So that's kind of my reasoning on why I'm avoiding him at the price that he's at currently. But things can change as the season gets closer.
Steve?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like top 5, I don't really want to take him there. Now, he was like the consensus number 1 pick last year, which was obviously a mistake. And that we got kind of caught in those patterns where it's always like, all right, number 1 is the number 1 guy. And this year it's CMC, obviously for good damn reason. He should have been the number 1 guy last year, but it was like Jefferson almost like 90%, maybe higher than that every single time at the 1 spot. Now he's 7, 8 spot, 6, 7, 8 spot, which isn't bad, but I still like outside the top 6, maybe 7, 8. I take them maybe a little bit later. But I mean, there's 2 different things you could say about JJ. Obviously, there's the one big thing is he's got Sam Darnold and freaking JJ McCarthy. So we don't really know what Sam Darnold's going to do. This is the best system he's ever been in. It's the best opportunity he's ever been in. He was with the Jets. That was always a shit show. Everybody that goes, a lot of people go to the Jets. It's a complete shit show. Then he went to Carolina. You know, he had DJ Moore. But even DJ Moore wasn't really that great. Remember what DJ Moore was going in the 3rd round a couple years ago, and I thought that was a mistake with Darnold. Didn't really pay dividends. So you're getting a little bit of a discount compared to last year with Jefferson. The one thing you could say is there's really nobody else to throw to because it's just really Addison. Hawkinson's going to be out the first 4 or 5 weeks, and it's funny how that Hawk 2 is taken off. So a lot of teams are going to be taking that freaking name now. But so Hawkinson's going to be out like the first maybe 3-4 weeks possibly. So Jefferson could, there's really not that many people to throw to. I do like O'Connell as an offensive coach. So it's kind of tricky. I think what Pete said kind of hits it on the head. Like, outside that top 5, I don't mind kind of taking him maybe just past Amon-Ra St. Brown. After that, I think it's okay. But, yeah, he definitely could be overvalued because we don't really know what to expect from Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. It could look pretty bad, and we could see a lot of Aaron Jones this year.
Jefferson last year, wide receiver 33 overall in PPR, 10 games played. Obviously not what you paid for when he was going first, maybe second overall. But he was still the wide receiver 5 in fantasy points per game. So, no, you did not have him for a whole season. And no, on paper, looking at overall fantasy finishes, it didn't look good. But when it comes to fantasy points per game, he was still a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. Still got you over 1,000 yards, 68 receptions, targeted 100 times in only 10 games. So it's all there. The efficiency was still there. And he played a handful of games without Kirk Cousins, and he was still very solid down the stretch without Kirk Cousins. From weeks 15 to 18, wide receiver 22, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 34, and then overall wide receiver 1 in week 18 against Detroit with backup quarterback. So whether it's Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, Justin Jefferson, I believe, has shown us that he can still put up top 12 wide receiver numbers. And so I'm willing to take him in the first round. I'm not saying I'm going to take him in the top 3 anymore, but like if you look at this first round, McCaffrey, Lamb, Tyreek, Chase, Jefferson going 5th overall on underdog, and then he's going a little bit later, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th overall in FFPC best ball. I think the sweet spot for me is that 8th overall. And I think he comes at a value because I will take Amon-Ra St. Brown over Justin Jefferson because I think he's a little bit safer and he has a higher floor. He knows the offense. We know what Jared Goff can do. So I don't mind taking Jefferson in the first. I just won't take him in the top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, Nick Mullins last year was, I mean, he put up a couple 400-yard games. It's freaking Nick Mullins. So, I mean, maybe they didn't give a shit as much because it was Nick Mullins and it was just, they were just slanging the ball around a little bit. You know, they threw in Jaron Hall. He was a disaster. Went back to Nick Mullins. But I guess what you could say is the days of Jefferson going for 1,800 yards and 1,600 yards. I don't know if he's going to get close to that with these two quarterbacks.
Come on.
But no, I don't think so. 1,800 yards, maybe like 13, 14, but 16, 18, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think you gotta also look at it too. This team threw the ball the fourth most in football last year. Their defense is going to be better, right? You have to assume Flores, they were cooking at some points in the season last year. They have a run game now. Okay, so they have Aaron Jones. They didn't have one last year to rely on, and they're also, they have more invested in these quarterbacks than they did last year, right? So that's why it just worries me that the volume. You know what? You could also make the argument that the volume should offset because Hawkinson is injured, and so, but Aaron Jones should catch the ball out of the backfield as well. He has that ability. So I don't know. Again, I think Anthony kind of hit on the head too, and Steve said it as well. Like, at that 8, 9, 10 spot, like, you're pretty much deciding, do you want to take AJ Brown or do you want to take Justin Jefferson? And for some reason, my gut leans AJ Brown even, but to get exposure, there are times at that spot that I will go Jefferson, but I'm leaning AJ Brown at this point in time. He's in a better offense. He's with the better quarterback. So that's really my thoughts on that, to close that out for me, at least.
Down the stretch, those 4 games without Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson averaged 119 yards a game. Obviously, he had 2 monster, and I'll put the context out there: 84, 141, 59, and $192. But still 119 receiving yards a game. Let's say he plays 18. Obviously, he's not going to get you that, but that would put him on pace for over 2,000 yards receiving. So I don't think the years of Justin Jefferson getting you 1,800, I don't think that's that. I think the talent is there as long as J.J. McCarthy is halfway competent. If J.J. McCarthy sucks, maybe not. But if he's at least competent,
yeah, I'm betting.
I think he's still an elite receiver. He got paid for a reason,
especially in his rookie season. I mean, I'm going to bet against him just like being a big time quarterback. And we may see Darnold for most of the year too. So
that's what I think too.
And if we see Darnold for most of the year, that means he's playing well.
I still don't. Yeah, no, that's true. But I still don't have an issue with taking JJ in the first round. I just prefer him at the end.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Jake from State Farm here. Thanks, Jake. Jake says Vikings have a good playoff schedule. Eagles not bad as well. That's also a good point. Go ahead.
I was going to say Eagles, Cowboys in the fantasy championship. If you guys like correlated best ball stacks,
yeah.
If you let's say you get a couple Eagles and Cowboys, you get to that week 18, whatever the fuck the fantasy championship is when they play, man, there could be fireworks in that game. Dallas's defense, it's going to be good, but with Zimmer, there's going to be a transition. Plus, their secondary wasn't exactly their strong suit, and I think Philly, it's another, some nice talent, young. They're going to have good weeks. They're going to have bad games. Like, there could be big time fireworks. So that AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Dak, and CD Lamb, you talk about the playoff schedule, but that fantasy championship game, they could potentially bring it home.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Steve, do you have anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, let's move on.
Okay. We have some questions in here, so I just want to get to them and we'll move on to the next one. Jamie says, "What's up?" Jamie, what's up, man? We also have a question, well, not a question, just a comment. But I believe Goff, along with Jameson Williams, will be much improved. Yeah, Jameson Williams is an interesting, polarizing player at this point. I don't have enough of a formulated opinion on him just yet to stake a claim if I'm buying him or not. Do you guys have any opinion on Jameson Williams this year?
I mean, this should be the year. I mean, he's coming off the ACL, then he has the suspension for the gambling. It's his third year now in Detroit. Dan Campbell has been talking him up, saying he's gonna be on fire this year. He's gonna be damn solid. He's a big time weapon. Does he fit Goff's style and Goff's arm? Really well. No, I mean, that's more Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta, short to intermediate routes. But I mean, Jameson can still learn, to run different routes underneath. It doesn't have to be just a deep threat. They can use them on screens. They can use them on reverses. I believe in the playoffs last year, didn't they start early with a touchdown, like on a reverse to Jameson Williams? They ran for a touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah. So plays like that. And that's, that I was going to say, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe he takes a step back because of Laporta and a little bit more Jameson and a little bit more Jahmyr Gibbs as well out of the backfield. But it's tough to bet against Amon-Ra because he's just so crafty in that role. But yeah, I think Jameson should only be better this year. I like taking some Jameson Williams this year. I'm kind of buying into him a little bit more than I have in the past.
I liked Jameson Williams since he's been drafted. A lot of red flags, a lot of speed bumps. But like Steve is saying, this in theory should be the year he's entering camp injury-free, no gambling suspensions. They didn't address their wide receiver room, which tells me they're comfortable with Jameson Williams opening the year as their two. That they let Josh Reynolds walk, and I get it's Josh Reynolds, but he did have that built-in rapport from with Jared Goff from the Rams, and he did make some plays here and there. So I'm comfortable taking Jameson Williams at cost. I'm tempering expectations. Like if he hits it and if he lives up to his first-round draft capital, where you're drafting him, he's a league winner if he hits. Yeah. But if they use Jameson Williams the way that we've seen them use him, and sporadic gadget guy, then we're burning a draft pick. But I'm willing to take that risk. I am willing to take him because he's not very expensive compared to the overall potential ceiling.
Right, 8th round.
Yeah, he's not.
Bad.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not expensive, especially if you're going for a stack and you take Goff as your second quarterback, or you happen to land St. Brown and you want to go for a later on stack. So Jared, I think that pretty much answers your question here. So we'll move on as well. We have two more questions here. One from James Ross. I'll take this one. He said, "How early should the first quarterback be picked, and is it Mahomes?" I'm not going to lie to you, James. I don't think Mahomes would be the guy I'd be leaning to. The fantasy community is really high on rushing upside. I think Anthony feels pretty strongly that this is the year Mahomes is going to go nuclear. From a quarterback's perspective, he hasn't finished as high as we've liked him to over the years, but this is probably the best weapons he's had since Hill is gone. And Travis Kelce should be healthy, right? I mean, he was playing banged up all last season. So in terms of, to answer the question, I would still be taking Jalen Hurts. I'd probably take Josh Allen still, and I'm probably taking Lamar. And then Mahomes kind of falls in that spot there too. But generally speaking, most quarterbacks, if they're going to get picked, the first one's probably going late second, early third, unless you're in a home league where sometimes people do some weird stuff and somebody may reach and take one a little bit earlier.
You say it's been a couple of, like 2 years ago, year one without Tyreek Hill, Mahomes was number 2 in fantasy points per game, 5,250 yards, 41 touchdown passes. I think last year that was that real speed bump where the receivers just weren't catching the football. And it took a little while for Rashee Rice to get going. And Travis Kelce was dealing with that lower body injury for much of that season. You bring in, I get they tried with Sky Moore. They tried with MVS. They tried with Kadarius Toney. We know Hollywood Brown can make plays. right? Like we believe Xavier Worthy. At worst, he takes the top off the defense. You're going to have to cover him. You're not just going to let him run free. And all of a sudden, the middle is open for Travis Kelce for layups. So I'm overly high on Patrick Mahomes this year, to where I'm willing to let Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts go off the board, and I'll let Mahomes fall to me. You know, I've been getting Mahomes in the 4th round, and I'll happily take him there because I think he gets back to that quarterback 1 to 2 range this season.
Yeah, Steve, any thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it's Allen's always number one. I mean, he's finished number 1 4 the last 5 years. But I don't mind taking Mahomes as the second over Lamar and Hurts. I don't mind Mahomes definitely getting back towards the top, especially with the addition of Worthy, who I really like. So, Rashee Rice should get back in there at some point. So yeah, Kelce, maybe he's a little bit healthier this year, but he is getting older. We'll see. Maybe that's just the thing. Maybe he's just going to get a little more banged up as he gets older, but maybe not. But yeah, I think that Mahomes definitely could easily possibly finish 1, but I think it's more likely like 2, 3.
Yeah, I agree. I pulled that comment up from Out of Rhythm, Anthony. I don't think you saw it.
No.
I pulled that up already. Let's move on here because we still have some other.
Did we get Lewis's question from Facebook?
I was going to go to Matthew first, and then Lewis, and then we'll jump into the next.
I want to get our Facebook people in from our group.
Yeah. So Matthew here says, way too early keeper question, 12-man standard scoring, pick 3 keepers, Pacheco as my 7th rounder, Achane as my 8th rounder, Puka as my 13th rounder, obviously keeping there, Anthony Richardson as my 5th, Christian Watson 11th, Drake London as my 4th rounder. So I think he wants you to keep 3 here, right? I think the obvious picks for me at least, and then you guys can kind of share what your thoughts are. I'm probably keeping Puka, Achane, and then I'm probably actually going Puka, Anthony Richardson, and Drake London. I like Achane. I think there's some built-in risk there. But those 3 in Anthony Richardson, Drake London, and Puka have enough upside that I don't feel like I would need Achane. But it's pretty good value across the board for the keepers that he has. What about you guys?
I want to ask this question first because I love Anthony Richardson. Think he can break fantasy football this year. It's a quarterback with a 5th round ADP. So you're basically keeping Anthony Richardson at cost. There's no real value there. And this is where knowing your league matters, Matthew. Where do you think, is your league going to keep a lot of quarterbacks? Because if your league isn't going to keep quarterbacks, then you don't keep a quarterback. Because what's the point? Somebody's going to fall to you. And the biggest values on this board in terms of ADP to where, obviously Puka, and I think Pacheco and Achane, or Puka, one of the running backs, and Drake London is where I'd go. But now, if your league's going to keep, if you have 12 guys, they're going to keep all their quarterbacks, then I think you should keep a quarterback.
That's a good point.
But I just don't see the value of to where, okay, Achane going 2nd, 3rd round, you keep him as an 8th. But so then I think you should keep Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. I think it's
I just wanted to ask that. I think it's important to know your league.
Yeah. No,
questions.
I agree as well. And we appreciate you coming in, Matthew. We have a couple more. Let's get to Lewis here. Lewis says, who besides Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels, I almost said McDaniels, Jaden Daniels is worth drafting from Washington? Look, I don't know how you guys feel about Jahan Dotson. I mean, I'd need to take a look at his cost to have a comfortable decision. Honestly, I'm interested in Zach Ertz. At really late, I am interested in Zach Ertz. I know it sounds crazy. I know, but he's gonna be frustrating, and he's gonna score touchdowns.
I mean, he's only 33, I guess. I mean, he's like
same age as Kelce. But he's familiar with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know Ben Sinnott. I'm a big Ben Sinnott fan, but like you're getting Ertz for pretty much nothing. Now, am I saying, you know what, you may not even need to draft Zach Ertz, but what I would do is I would keep an eye on him and have him in your queue. If you know some leagues allow you to have like a watching player, he'd be a guy that'd be on my radar because I think we need to see it with him, but other than that, there's not really anybody I'm super high on from the pass catcher standpoint. Running backs, I can be swayed either way on, and I'm probably going with the cheaper running back, whichever one that ends up being in my draft.
I'm good with B-Rob. Obviously, at running back, you know how I feel about Austin Eckler. I love Zach Ertz this year. Under Kingsbury in 2022, I know Ertz played only 10 games. He was a tight end 6 in fantasy points per game. I get he doesn't have a lot of juice left. Think Jason Witten in Dallas, his final few years. He was a PPR machine. He caught the ball. He fell. That's going to be Zach Ertz in this offense. He's free. You get him in your last round, your last round pick. But I think, fantasy people, the community, they love the rookies and Ben Sinnott. As long as Zach Ertz is healthy, he's probably going to be the tight end 1 in this offense.
Yeah, but that's a big if because
but still, you get 10 games.
The caveat is Sinnott can play H-back too, though. That's the thing to keep in mind. He can play fullback. So even if Ertz is on the field,
Ertz
if they use a fullback, he can be used out of the backfield as well.
Ertz has had one good season the last 4 years, but he's been hurt every single year.
I mean, 2021, tight end 10 in fantasy points per game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Last 4 years, he's had one good year. So I don't know.
But in 2022, he was tight end 6 in fantasy points per game too. He's just gonna fall into the end zone. But all right, well, let's move on because we
love on this show arguing about fucking players with 200 ADP.
You know what? I don't mind taking Eckler actually where he's going either. I don't mind taking Eckler where he's going as like my fourth running back.
We're gonna stab each other over Zach Ertz and Donta Foreman.
third running back in the 9th round. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I'm interested in.
I like B-Rob. I don't know what to think of Jahan Dotson. I really don't. I think a better quarterback should only help him. He's been playing with dog shit, and then we might see finally true Terry this year as well. I don't know what to think of Benson. I don't have a good read on him yet. I got to look into him more, so I can't give an honest opinion about him yet.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on here. All right, so we still have a few more questions. We'll hold off the main stuff that we want to do for the show so we can answer you guys. We appreciate you being here. Jamie, we kind of already answered this with Richardson. If you want to talk a little bit more about it, DM us on Twitter. But I think we pretty much already answered that. We think Richardson can be QB1. Brian's in here. He said, keeper league with pick assignment. I'm choosing between JSN, Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson at first round later than August ADP. I'm a little confused on this one. I don't know if one of you guys want to take it first because I'm not exactly sure the structure here and how this works. So I don't want to give the wrong answer here.
So basically he's going to get one of these guys at 1 round later than whatever the August ADP is, I guess. So what's the current ADP on these guys? Hyatt obviously is going pretty late. Wan'Dale's not bad. JSN's going earlier.
JSN.
Yeah, I'm taking JSN, I think. Too.
Yeah, probably.
The other guys are going to go so much later that getting them around later is nothing. You're not really getting much value there. On Wan'Dale Robinson, if he's the 15th round pick, or let's say 11th round, and you're getting him in the 12th round, is that really a value? JSN is going, I think he's going somewhere in that 6th to 7th round range. You're getting a much better value there.
It's only a matter of time. Tyler Lockett changing of the guard. He showed big time signs of slowing down last year. I'm not a big like DK Metcalf had one nice season. Jackson Smith and Jigba last year, he started coming on a little bit late. Quiet 93 targets. I think where his ADP is, and you get him around after. Let's say he settles in at like an 8th round. You get him in a 9th round ADP. I think that's your bit. Like Wan'Dale Robinson, does it matter? Like, and I like Wan'Dale. I think he'll bring a high floor. I don't care. Like Jalen Hyatt, who cares?
I'd rather pay the price on those guys.
JSN,
it's not much.
I think JSN is your keep here.
Yeah, you could still get Wan'Dale regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving on here. Diego is in here. He said, is Kyler Murray a keeper in the 12th round? Or do I keep Pollard or Chubb in the 4th round? I mean, I don't even, this is a no-brainer. Kyler Murray. I mean, if you're getting him with the 12th round cost, Chubb is going in the 9th or 10th round, Diego, right now.
And Pollard's going later too.
Yeah, Pollard, I think Pollard's in that range-ish as well.
Is he?
I'd have to look.
I'll look.
But yeah, Pollard's running back 29 off the board, and he's going to ADP of pick 100.
Yeah.
So he's like a round or two above Chubb, but it's still pretty late. I mean, there's a no-brainer. You're not going to pay 4th round pick for
I like that. Yeah, Kyler, you're getting like a 4-round
Certainly
value.
Kyler.
Yeah. All right. One more here from Jared. Keeper trade, weird league. It's a dynasty. You're welcome, Diego. Says keeper league, weird league, dynasty / keeper trade, Chase and a 2025 6th rounder. I would get ETN and 2025 and 2026 first. My other keepers are Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Barkley, and Josh Allen. So I guess is a keeper league, right? We don't need to add the dynasty part. It is a keeper league, right? And so he's asking if you should trade Jamar Chase for a 2025 6th pick in the regular Serpentine, but he'd get ETN at 25 and a 26 first. This is kind of a weird structure here, but I would keep Jamar Chase, keep the stud, right? I don't care about the picks.
Yeah.
You're sitting there hoping that those guys end up being Jamar Chase at the end of the day. And yes, I understand
he's also getting ETN too, though.
Yeah, I'd rather keep Jamar Chase.
And he's getting 2 first rounders.
Yeah, but he's also giving up a 6th pick in the 2025 draft, which I'm trying to understand.
No,
is
2025 6th round probably.
Right. Is that a rookie pick or is that just regular? Because, I'm assuming that's just regular Serpentine draft because it's a keeper league, right? So I don't know. But Steve, what are your thoughts? I mean, is that something that you would do or?
It all depends on if he thinks he can, if he doesn't think he has a chance this year, then yeah, I would just punt. And maybe and get those 2 first rounders, get ETN, which is still pretty high quality player compared to Chase. And you're only giving up a 6th round pick, so I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I mean, Chase obviously is an elite player, but like I said, if you don't have a chance to win this year, then I don't mind punting for the future.
See, the issue is, I get what you're saying, punting, but like Jamar Chase isn't like he's 28; he's 24 years old. So, like, your future is Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. You already have your future. Why mortgage your future for Jamar Chase to get 2 first-round picks? You don't know if those first-round picks are going to work out.
That's true.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I agree. I maybe I would do it. I'm not saying I definitely would do it, but I could see myself pulling the trigger if my team was, his team, he's got a pretty good base, though. You got Allen,
right? You
got Jefferson and Amon-Ra. So
right.
If you keep Chase, you probably have a good chance to win this year. So, yeah, maybe you do stay put.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for our questions here. If you want, feel free to drop us any more while we get to the main stuff here on the show, and we'll gladly answer them. But for the second guy, we're going to go into the second round here. And this was Anthony's pick, right? Best player to avoid in the second round, which I'm actually a little surprised about because I know Anthony is a big Achane fan, but I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are on this, Anthony, and why you chose Achane.
I was, and Steve can attest to this, last year I was on Achane as soon as Miami drafted him through the offseason, the ups and downs. But he was cheap, right? Like Achane was like, a 10th, 11th round pick last year in redraft in best ball. Now we got to pay 2nd round, 25 ADP on underdog. FFPC, we have Devon Achane going a little bit later. Oh, no, right, 24.7. I think that's a hefty price tag to a team or to a player on a team that they resign Mostert. They drafted probably one of the faster running backs in this draft in Wright. Devin Achane with his frame, is he going to get any more work and stay healthy? Because it wasn't just that preseason, like he missed, he had multiple injuries last year. I'm trying to find the injury statuses here. Shoulder
It was 4 different
preseason, knee
injuries.
sprain, toe soreness, bruised ribs. And quite frankly, after those big monster games of 51-27, you got the Giants game where he got hurt, where he gave you 21. Then he comes back week 11, exits again. Week 13, he's back with 25. Then the rest of the season, 12, 9, 4, 23, 13. So, like, I guess, like, I don't hate it in best ball, but in redraft, there's so much volatility and risk to be spending a second, early third round pick on a player where you not only have to worry about injuries, you got to worry about Mostert coming off that monster year with touchdowns. And I don't think he replicates that, but we do have to factor that into our range of outcomes. You got to factor in the rookie. You got to factor in, what if Tua gets hurt? What the hell happens to Devin Achane and the rest of this offense with White calling the shots? So, like, there's so much here. Like, I'd be more comfortable for Achane paying a late third, early fourth than his current price. Like, I think he's going around too early because of all the red flags.
Steve?
Yeah, Anthony was on Achane, and second round now, that is a tough price for me as well. But the reason why he's going that high is because the freaking guy was absolutely electric. I mean, he had that game against Denver, 233 total yards, 4 touchdowns. The next week,
that game.
touchdown. Then, yeah, he shit all over the Broncos. That's damn right.
But if you, I'm not saying, and I don't want to cut you off, Steve, but I think that's the one issue I have is, like, outside of that pop game against Denver, like, looking at the rest of his numbers, I'm not saying he
had a few
pops. He was off the fucking charts. Yeah. But I just feel like that game really made his statistics look
right.
insane.
I mean, he looks good doing it too, because he fits that system very, very nicely. And obviously he's playing alongside Tyreek and Waddle, so things you just open up regardless. But yeah, again, another $165 later on in the season, 137. So yeah, if this guy could stay on the field and play a full season, he's going to get that many looks. Maybe he does pay off that 2 second round ADP, but you still have Mostert there, taking away those goal line carries. And, even though he's like 32, 33, doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires because he's always been hurt.
Yeah.
So he's still somewhat fresh. The guy stays in great shape. He's a surfer. He's actually from like an hour and a half north of where I live in Florida, New Smyrna, Florida, biggest shark cap, most shark bites in the freaking U.S. Quick fact. And then they took Jalen Wright in the 4th round, who I kind of like too. So maybe he works in a little bit. So yeah, I think I like Achane. He's exciting. He's electric. He definitely could pay huge dividends for your teams. I don't totally hate taking him the 2nd round, but it definitely is risky.
Achane is going right now, before you go, right next to Travis Etienne. And Etienne, I almost see them similar to where Etienne's extremely volatile as well. And, do we trust this Jaguars offense to take a step forward? Do we trust Doug Peterson to continue to feed Etienne? But, like, I do think if you are looking to get like an anchor running back on your team, there's a significant teardrop after Achane and Etienne.
Yeah. So I'm actually looking here at my exposure for best ball, and Etienne is one of my lowest guys. I did get a little bit of him, but he's only 5. I've only 5% drafted him. Jalen Wright's actually my 5th most exposure that I have for running backs at his cost. But I think all your points are valid in that. So, Steve said, yeah, he has league-winning potential. I know Dave came in here as well in the comments and said, if he's healthy, yeah, I think that's the big thing is if he's healthy. But I mean, a smaller bodied back, 4 separate injuries last season. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like. And he missed multiple different times. He left games hurt, right? It wasn't like he missed 6 games last year and it was 6 chunks of games. It was like came back, got hurt, came back, got hurt. Like, and the fact that it wasn't just one specific injury that kept coming up and nagging him, and it's 6 separate, and he's 4 separate. It's just a concern for me on the size. And look, Raheem Mostert, he's got a special relationship with Mike McDaniels, right? He comes from the 49ers, scored 20 plus touchdowns last year. I mean, like, so do you just think that they're just going to phase him out, right? They bring Odell Beckham Jr. in, right? Jonnu Smith is probably an upgrade at tight end. Like, they have a lot of weapons there, and I just don't know. And let's be honest, it is now that they've got this Mike McDaniels offense on paper. I'm not sitting here saying that the league is going to have them figured out, but they hit the league by storm last year. But teams are going to be preparing for this now. They have a whole off season, and they were doing a lot of movement, a lot of motions. I think that's part of the issue with Miami is they run a lot of smoke and mirrors. They have a lot of fast players, and it opens it up for other guys. But this is another year with film on this team, and I just don't know if I trust Achane in that rotation with Jalen Wright, with Raheem Mostert, and all those receiving weapons. I'm just not comfortable taking him at that price tag, so I'm out on him right now. So that's all I got. Let's move on here, and let's see. In the chat, we have Justin said, dude is chiefing. Love it, Anthony. I guess he appreciates you vaping.
Yeah, I was about to do it old school, pull out a fucking bogey. Look.
Oh, geez.
Maybe I'll light one up. My wife won't like that very much, but fuck it. Maybe we'll do it one day.
Wow.
Well, yeah. I mean,
if I win one of these big ass tournaments, hell yeah, I'll light one up.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one question here and then we'll move on. Andre says, what's the best quarterback wide receiver combo right now? Let's just give it a fantasy focus. If you're stacking a wide receiver and a quarterback at their cost, you guys have been doing a lot of best ball drafts, so you're pretty comfortable. What is your favorite stack when it comes to quarterback and wide receiver? And we could even add a little twist to it. If you want to say tight end as well, go for it. But what is your favorite combo right now at their cost?
I'll take it first. It's an easy one. Currently at cost, Mahomes and Kelsey.
I just knew you were going to say that.
I mean, and I will keep drafting Kelsey. We're getting him at a relative 2-round discount right now.
Yeah.
And then obviously even Mahomes going as a QB 3 or 4 off the board. Like I'll take it all day long.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them. I mean, you got Lamar and Andrews. That's a good one too, because Andrews is going in the 5th round. You can get Lamar in the 4th. So, I mean, Andrews is a value at tight end. He's going after Laporta and Kelsey and kind of alongside Kincaid and McBride. I've been talking about the Jordan Love with all those receivers. I keep talking about that. Maybe Watson, because Watson has that wide receiver 1 potential. You get him in, later on in the 9th round. So that one. And then, of course, Josh Allen, you got to take Allen, 2nd, 3rd round. But there's so many receivers you can couple him with. So you could do a triple stack with him and go that way as well.
Yeah. I like the Josh Allen one.
Murray McBride's not a bad one either.
No, I'm such a Trey McBride guy. I do worry about his cost. I prefer going with other tight ends, but at the same time, Kyler is priced so affordable too that you can reach on McBride because you're not really reaching at quarterback, and you can get them at a decent value. It kind of outweighs the reach on McBride because you can get Kyler. But I like the Josh Allen stacks just because his receivers are cheap, and you can pretty much dial up and grab like 2 or 3 of them at good cost, and even get Anthony's boy Valdez Scantling, who Anthony likes taking as his last pick if you have the stack. And I really don't hate
Chase
it
Claypool. Chase Claypool's still there too.
They are saying that he's been
Mac
showing
Hollins.
signs. All right, so let's move on here. I do want to bring up one thing because we haven't talked about it in a couple of shows, and we have some new listeners in here, so I'm just going to bring it up. We are doing a jersey giveaway. Enter here to win a Chad Johnson signed authenticated jersey. All you have to do is visit the FFFfaceoff.com/subscribe and just sign up for our newsletter. We're going to be bringing fantasy news and knowledge all off season long. You'll have access to our rankings, all of that for free in season as well. So head on on over there and get yourself entered to win a free jersey. I'm going to drop the link in here in the comments below, just in case. It's just an easier way for you guys to jump on over there. But yeah, let's move to our third round here, guys. In terms of the third round, right now it's I think it's no, I'm sorry, it's not Cooper Kupp. It is there we go. It is Josh Jacobs, and that was Steve's pick. So Steve, why don't you start us off on Josh Jacobs here?
Yeah, I mean, Jacobs had the one good year with the Raiders. I was on him last year. I kind of fell for it. Wasn't a great year efficiency wise. The guy got a freaking ton of carries, just 3.5 yards per carry. The previous year he had 12 total touchdowns. Last year he drops down to 6 touchdowns. So now obviously he's out of Oakland. He goes over to Green Bay, and I think I don't know if Jacobs is going to be able to. I think that was just an outlier year. 1150 is rookie year, 1065 is second year, third year 872 rushing. Then 2022 just out of nowhere, 1653, 12 touchdowns. So fantasy points per game goes from 3 to 18 in 1 year. So now paying third round for him, I just don't feel great about it. I think Marshawn Lloyd can earn a role there. You still got AJ Dillon clogging up the pipes. I think that Green Bay is going to throw the ball because it kind of fits their team because they have all these freaking weapons at receiver. So it's kind of like almost their best way to attack. So is Jacobs going to get all these dump offs? I don't think so. I think you got all these talented receivers. You got a talented tight end, 2 talented tight ends as well. So for all those reasons, I mean, I just think I like Jacobs. I still think he could have a nice season. I just think it's a little too expensive for me.
Yeah,
Anthony?
I'm with you on Josh Jacobs. He's always been about the volume. That big year in 2022, where he popped off, contract year, 340 carries, 53 receptions. So that's almost 400 touches. Even last year, he was still a bell cow, right? He was number one in opportunity share despite almost 100 fewer rushing attempts and maybe like 15-ish fewer receptions, half the touchdowns. Efficiency-wise was never great. Like in 2022, big year, 4.9 yards per carry. But outside of his rookie year, where he had 4.8, he was below 4 yards a carry in his other 3 seasons. He's going to a Green Bay team that never featured Aaron Jones, right? Like Aaron Jones, I love the guy. One of the more efficient backs, one of the better fantasy backs. He was conceding touches to fucking Jamal Williams, right? He's really just a guy. He was conceding touches to AJ Dillon, who he's okay, right? People love his quads, but I don't think he's the greatest running back in the world. So if Aaron Jones was never featured in a LaFleur offense, what makes us think Josh Jacobs is going to be featured? I just don't see it. This is a team that not only brought in Josh Jacobs, they re-signed AJ Dillon. They drafted one of the highly coveted rookie running backs as well. So this could be a 2 to 3 headed monster in Green Bay. And at cost, I'm just out on Josh Jacobs. I think there's just better players going around Josh Jacobs that we can draft.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I feel like I'd prefer picking a little ahead and taking Derrick Henry. I prefer Isaiah Pacheco as well. I even prefer ETN. All 3 of those guys are the running backs that are going a little ahead of Jacobs, and so I prefer that. I feel like once you get to Jacobs, it's kind of that running back dead zone, right? Where I think that's where it is. Like, I'm not really high on James Cook. I'm not high on Rashad White. I'm not high on Joe Mixon, not high on Alvin Kamara. Like, those are the guys that are going right after Josh Jacobs. And my thing is, if I miss out on Henry, Pacheco, or even ETN at that tier, I'm not really willing to pay on Jacobs. I'd rather just take my shot on one of these other running backs in this dead zone that are a little bit cheaper, because I mean, like they all have a similar built-in risk, but they're a little cheaper. And then with Jacobs, and I think Anthony kind of touched on a little bit, but his opportunity share was first in the NFL last year, right? And he still wasn't
Yeah.
good. He dealt with injuries last year. He's been a fairly healthy running back his whole career. What does that look like? It's kind of the same thing with the Rashad White debate that we have all the time. If volume gets taken away, what can we expect from a running back that's not as efficient? And at least we know in the Green Bay offense they are going to use and rotate backs. We don't know that for sure with the Bucs, and we're speculating that with Rashad White, but we know with this Green Bay offense, we know what they like to do. Anthony even said with Aaron Jones, who when he was in his prime, they still rotated backs and gave guys like Jamal. I mean, hell, Jamal Williams is still living off of that one great season, and he somehow is he got a big deal with the Lions, right? What big relative for him, right? He got a deal with the Lions, and then he went over to the Saints, and he
Fell
I
on
don't
his
even think
face.
he barely touched the ball last season.
His only
So,
touchdown was the one where Jameson Winston went over his coach's head and on a quarterback kneel called a goal line run just to get Jamal Williams a touchdown.
Yeah, he got all those 1-yard touchdowns with Detroit. It was just 19,000 1-yard touchdowns. I'd rather take a receiver there in the third, either Harrison, DJ Moore, Evans, Adams, Debo, Ayuk. Give me one of those guys all day.
And where we're saying third, like these ADPs change, right? He's really close to that fourth round, but he's going. So, these are fluctuating, but this is just kind of what we're
best
seeing.
ball, he's kind of going third round. And then I'm looking at NFC, he's going fourth round. So I think that's a little more fitting in the fourth.
Yeah. Greg said AJ Dillon is Anthony's brother from another mother. I guess Greg thinks you have big quads, Anthony.
My quads are okay. They're not AJ Dillon quads. When I was younger, before my car accident, they were pretty damn big. In my
Steve,
20s.
how about you? How are your quads?
I also used to train legs twice a week when I was in my 20s. So
my lower body's probably up stronger than my upper body. So
that's fair. Greg also said just drafted Marshawn Lloyd, third rookie draft. Can see him getting action if Jacobs is as bad as I think. Yeah, I think Lloyd is a decent dart throw, especially in the third round, which I don't really love the third round in rookie drafts. There's a lot of murkiness this year. So a lot of guys that kind of just look the same, but I do like Lloyd. And one more comment from Greg, and then we will jump over to our next player. He said, never skip leg day. Yeah. Well, Anthony, have you been skipping leg day? You said that your legs used to be a little bigger, but
no.
Okay.
I train legs once a week.
Steve, what about you? You train legs at all anymore?
I'll fucking die.
I don't really lift like heavy weights. I kind of just do like calisthenics, like running, sprint. I try to do that type of shit.
Jump you do rope. The Zumba. You do the Zumba, you said.
I can still hit 315.
I've never do Zumba. Yeah, yoga, Zumba, fucking every 9 a.m.
Fun fact. In college, I had to take an art elective for like freshman kind of thing. And me and my buddy, because we on the football team, we took tap dance, actually. One semester
like
tap dance.
Fred Astaire out there. Fred Astaire.
Yeah, I had some moves. I mean, I was stiff as a board, but
that's like an old school thing from like the fucking 30s, 40s, 50s. That's an old school thing. Tap dance.
It was actually kind of fun. But I won't embarrass myself too much. All right, let's move on here to Cooper Kupp, who was another one of Steve's picks. Steve, why don't you lead us off here since it's your guy and tell us why you have Kupp on this list?
Yeah, no, he's actually reversed. I'm looking at NFC. He's going in the third, and then underdog. He's going in the fourth. And I've always been a Cooper Kupp guy. I loved Cooper Kupp. But I just think now with Puka there, it's going to hurt his value for being, kind of producing what we saw a few years ago. I mean, 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, 134 targets, 124 targets, 191 targets. Last year, banged up, 12 games. The year before that, 9 games. He suffered a lot of injuries in his career. You got Puka. He's being featured as the number one a lot of the times now. Kyron's getting heavily featured. They just bring in Blake Corum as well. So I worry about injury, but I mostly just look at the Rams now with Puka, and I think that he's just going to steal a lot of games that could go Kupp's way. And I don't know if Kupp is the same player he was before, earlier in his career and, with those injuries. So, I mean, 4th round is not terrible. I mean, he's still in a very good offense. He's still playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Stafford. He's playing with respect. He's playing with McVay, who is one of the best offensive minds in the game, who certainly sets up his receivers for success better than most. I mean, if you look at Kupp and Nacua, like your pure talent-wise, they aren't like the most talented guys, but they get the job done. They catch pretty much everything that's thrown to them. They follow the system. I just don't know if I want to go after Kupp again. It's just the injuries, Puka there now. So I just think it's a little too expensive there in the 3rd round. 4th round, maybe, or, 3rd, 4th round is just maybe 5th, maybe 6th, but he's not going to drop that late. So I probably won't have much Cooper Kupp this year.
Cooper Kupp going at cost, it looks like a good deal, right? It's Cooper Kupp. This is a guy who 2021, even 2022, where he played 9 games, was a wide receiver, 1 of fantasy points per game. Last year, we get 12 out of him, right? So the year before in 2022, he gives us number 1 production of fantasy points per game at wide receiver. Last year, plays a couple more games, wide receiver 23 in that category. Right around the same amount of touchdowns, 5 and 6. But so what's the difference? Well, receptions were down. Receptions were down from 75 to 59, similar targets. So what's the issue here? Well, you insert Puka Nacua, who is staying healthy. He's younger. Cooper Kupp is an old 31 years old. Cooper Kupp has battled injuries early in his career. I think Cooper Kupp is on the back 9 of his career. So, like, if you look at this offense on the Rams, you have a lot of risk built in, because what if Matthew Stafford somehow stayed healthy, battled to stay healthy last year? What if he goes down? What good is Cooper Kupp? And really, what good is the rest of this offense without Matthew Stafford? So you're not only got to worry about Cooper Kupp injury, you got to worry about quarterback injury. You also have to worry about a 2-headed monster potentially at running back. Does McVay want to run the ball a little bit more? Hey, let's keep my quarterback upright. Let's run a little bit more. And again, Puka Nacua. I think Puka Nacua, I don't love him at cost, but I do think he is taking over as the number 1 pass catcher in this offense. And they like Demarcus Robinson. Yeah. Laugh if you want. Demarcus Robinson, he flashed a lot in this offense last year as the 3.
So did, what's his name earlier in the year? Freaking
Tutu Atwell. Yeah. So
yeah,
I just think there's a lot of different factors here that just makes me fearful of drafting Cooper Kupp at his current cost.
Yeah, I think whenever you talk hamstrings, number 1,
like, before you go, just in perspective, going right behind Cooper Kupp is Michael Pittman. I'll take Michael Pittman all day.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is pretty much the same as what you guys laid out. I think when you talk hamstrings for an older player and then a wide receiver, like, if an offensive lineman has a hamstring injury, I'm not super worried about that. They're not playing with, they don't need that explosiveness. But part of Cooper Kupp's game is the fast twitch, explosive route running that he provides. And I mean, he couldn't shake it last year. It started in camp, right? It crept and crept and crept, and then it just continued to give him issues. I'm not saying, maybe he went to the Christian Watson school of injury therapy, hamstring therapy, whatever the heck they did this year, and maybe him and Christian Watson can, bounce back and get their hamstrings healthy, and maybe this is the way, and they've found a way to keep wide receiver hamstrings healthy. I don't know, but I'm not really buying Cooper Kupp at this price either. No. When a rookie wide receiver broke the rookie record last year, and pretty much stepped into the Cooper Kupp role and played extremely well. I don't think they're going to ask as much as Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's a veteran. He's going to eventually slide into that role of when you need a play on 3rd down and you need a 1st down, he's going to be the guy that moves the chains. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be relegated to just that, but he's just going to be the guy that Stafford counts on in the big moments in games. But I just feel like Puka is going to be the guy that gets peppered and gets the high volume. So yeah, I'm kind of out on Kupp at his price as well. Greg, I know that upsets you. He said that he got Kupp for a 25 second round pick, so he hopes we're wrong. For your sake, Greg, I hope we're wrong too. I don't really think a second round pick in 2025 is the worst thing you could have gave up to get Kupp.
If you're a win now
anyway.
team, I don't mind it at all.
Yeah,
you're going to take those shots.
That's a great trade. I think that's a great trade. I know Greg was telling me on Twitter that I think it was Greg. He said that his league is very tough when it comes to trading. I think he made out pretty well there, Greg.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good deal. So moving on to the last part of the show, and then we'll wrap things up because we don't have any questions. But if you have anything else, feel free to send it our way. The last receiver here is Malik Nabers, and just ignore the fourth round part right there. Our producer messed up a little bit. But all jokes aside, he's fired. That's why he's not here. It's Michael Hoff.
But all papers tomorrow. Fuck it.
All jokes aside, Nabers is kind of in between that fourth and fifth round on terms of his ADP, so it's not the biggest fuck up anyway. But Anthony, this is your guy. He's the thumbnail on the show, right? Talk to us about Malik Nabers and why you picked him in the spot.
My biggest issue with Malik Nabers is the cost of Malik Nabers, and also his situation. Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, one of those guys, maybe both, are going to be throwing him a football this year. And I've always gone back to this. I bring up Garrett Wilson because I believe Garrett Wilson could be top 5, top 3 receiver in the NFL and in fantasy football. What's the issue with Garrett Wilson? Quality of targets, and his quality of targets. And this is a guy, because the argument against Nabers is, well, he's going to get 160 targets. So did Garrett Wilson last year. Garrett Wilson saw 168 targets. He finished as a wide receiver 32 in fantasy points per game. His rookie year, $147. He was a wide receiver 30 in fantasy points per game. I normally chase volume, but I want volume coming from competent quarterbacks, and the New York Football Giants do not have a competent quarterback on that roster. So it's not about Malik Nabers' talent. It's about his situation. So catchable target rate for Garrett Wilson that year, 67.9. Target quality rating, 5.03, which puts him 48 amongst wide receivers. Do we believe Drew Lock and Daniel Jones are that much better than Zach Wilson at this point? I don't. So when it comes to Malik Nabers, I think there's a lot of risk built in, because sure, he's going to get the opportunity, but Malik Nabers, right? Because you already hear the comps coming out of OTAs and rookie camp. He's the next OBJ. Well, number one, what do you want them to say about him? But he's literally going to have to be OBJ in OBJ's rookie year to return value on his cost. Like, he's literally going to have to catch the ball and do it himself. And I just don't know. Like, it's not like they have a commanding wide receiver room to take some pressure. It's not like Saquon Barkley's there anymore to take the pressure off. They'll wrap 2 or 3 guys around him like they were doing it to Garrett Wilson last year. Okay, catch the ball, we'll pull you down. I just don't see it.
Steve?
Yeah. Nabers certainly is an explosive young player coming out of LSU. I just think the price is too high for me. 4th, 5th round. Some spots 4th, some spots 5th. Either way, it's too high, and I'd rather wait and take his counterpart at LSU and Brian Thomas. I think Brian Thomas is in a better situation with Trevor Lawrence, and I almost think that Brian Thomas can be a better pro overall than Nabers, even though he was selected later. And I also like taking Ladd McConkey later on in the 8th round too. So those 2 guys, I like targeting those 2 rookies other than Nabers now. And the other thing about the Giants is they kind of spread the ball around too. I mean, Dable likes to spread it around historically in his offenses to multiple different guys. You still got Wan'Dale Robinson. You still got Slayton. You have Jalen Hyatt, who they drafted last year. They bring in Allen Robinson. I don't know how much he's going to contribute, but so I think, they're going to spread it around. I don't know if Nabers is going to get, that many targets that Wilson got, because I think there's more weapons to go around than what the Jets had. So yeah, I like Nabers. Another guy. I'm probably going to be priced out on.
Yeah, I'm the same way here. I mean, and we talked about it on Twitter the other day. The Giants were 26th in passing attempts for 2023, and they were 25th in passing attempts in 2022. The reason I bring up 2022 is because that's when they had that playoff run and Daniel Jones was playing well, right? But still low volume offense, right? The Chargers, everyone's expecting them to have this low volume offense, right? But in terms of passing volume, so that's why people want to fade the Chargers receivers. But you can get Lad McConkey like almost 20 spots in terms of receivers picked, 20 receivers back. And I'd much rather take the guy that has the better quarterback than take Nabers who, yeah, look, the volume could be there, but to Anthony and Steve's point, what's volume if the quality of the targets aren't that good? And it's kind of like Drake London too. Like we're so high on Drake London this year because he's a great player, but how many times did Drake London fall on his face the last 2 years that now people are so bitter about it that they don't want to draft him at his cost this year? And they're blind to the fact that Kirk Cousins is a great upgrade and he's going to give Drake London every chance possible to finish as a top wide receiver in fantasy this year. Now, Willie, I'm not saying you will, but the point is, I know Saquon, and I know Saquon Barkley's gone, and that's a big deal for people. But to Steve's point too, Wan'Dale Robinson, for better or for worse, he's shown a lot of flashes. He dealt with some injuries, which was unfortunate his rookie year, and he came back last year and looked pretty solid. Jalen Hyatt was supposed to be a pretty good wide receiver prospect before he hurt his ankle. I'm not high on Jalen Hyatt, and I'm not saying he's going to be a fantasy producer, but there are decent players around him that this whole he's going to get all of these targets, I think is a little bit overblown. And I just don't trust the quarterback situation there. And honestly, I'd prefer Brian Thomas Jr. at his price. Trevor Lawrence was actually one of the crazy to say when you take drops out of the equation, if you adjust for drops last year, he was one of the highest in terms of completion percentage in the NFL last year. So I'd rather Brian Thomas Jr. to step in and take him at a much lower cost at their current price right now. So I'm out on Nabers at this price. I don't see him finishing as higher than a wide receiver, middle wide receiver 2. And I'm not paying that cost on a guy like him when I can get guys like DK Metcalf in that range who I think have a better outcome than him. So.
Yeah, I'm no rebuttal there.
Brian Thomas, man, I feel like he might be the best rookie receiver. I really like him that much. I think this guy's going to be great. Yeah. And Lawrence had his own issues last year, but I think he's really going to help Lawrence a lot. So I'm excited to see what those two can do.
No, I think I know me and Steve both believe Lad McConkey is going to be the guy. The Chargers.
I know there's jokes. I really don't mind Josh Palmer. Okay, I know. There's a comment in here. I'm not that upset taking a chance on Palmer. I think he's stepped up. I do worry about the passing volume, and I don't want to take too many shots on guys, and I would prefer swing upside. And at that point, I'd probably rather Quentin Johnston than Josh Palmer. If I'm going to try to swing upside for the potential number 1 in the room, if I don't believe in Lad. So, but I think that's it. I mean, we don't really have any other questions in here. Great show. Anthony, did you have anything else you wanted to go over?
No, I think that's about it for today.
Well, hold on. We got one more in Facebook from Caleb. Just got in here at the last second. He said opinions on Brock Bowers. Steve, why don't you lead us off on that?
Yeah, I like Brock Bowers a lot. I think he's elite. I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL. Whether or not that happens this year, we'll see. I do like the way, and as I looked into a little bit more, and Michael Mayer, rookie tight end at Notre Dame, I kind of like the way he finished the year. So I think he might hurt Bowers a little bit, maybe at least to start, or maybe this first year. But yeah, there's no question Bowers is talent. I mean, he just really stands out, just like Kincaid and Laporta did last year when you watch those guys in college. So, yeah, I think Bowers 9th round. I'm down to do it. Definitely down to do it, but maybe we taper our expectations because the Raiders do want to run the ball. You still got Devontae Adams. You still got Jacoby Myers and Meyer, who they also took fairly high last year, is still around. So I'm down to, take a shot on him, though.
I don't know how much Brock Bowers I'm going to have outside of Dynasty. Year one, I just listen. You have Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers there. They they want to run the hell out of the football. Their quarterback room right now, Gardner Minshew is ranked 23rd in catchable pass rate. Aiden O'Connell 32nd. They both average fewer than 200 passing yards a game. And they were throwing the football, and this is more so for Gardner in Indy. Like, this is not a great rookie situation for Brock Bowers. They also have a pretty solid tight end room with Mayer, and I think I'm missing another guy there too. So I get he can be an animal. He could be a game changer. I just, most of the time there's the outliers like last year with Laporta, of course, and Kincaid. Most of the time, rookie tight ends, they have difficulty getting going in year one. I just hope people are not getting blinded by, he's going to have another Laporta year. I don't see it. Like Laporta was in a terrific offense with a really good quarterback. Brock Bowers, there's a part of me that believes like the Raiders were expecting Penix to be there and they panic picked. Like when we're in a fucking draft and there's 3 seconds left on underdog because they only give you 30 seconds and you panic pick a player and you want to shoot yourself after. That's the Raiders drafting Brock Bowers. Did not make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't really have much else to add to it, honestly. You guys have pretty much said it, just be me reiterating the same points. Caleb, thanks for the question, man. We haven't seen you in here, but if you're not already subscribed, jump on over to our YouTube channel, hit us with a like and subscribe. And anybody else that's in here, we had 8 likes on the show. If you're still here, we still see, I know there's still about 10 people in here. If you haven't hit us with the thumbs up, please do so. It helps us out a lot. But I think that's about it. Anthony, why don't you close us out?
Yep.
Oh.
Every time we talk about Lad McConkey, it reminds me of Conkey from Pee Wee Herman, his robot. So I wanted to pull up my token Pee Wee and Conkey photo.
Yeah, and what did he always spit out? Like the fortune of the day or
the word of the day.
Word of the day.
And everybody screams. See, that word of the day was fun.
That's right.
Ah!
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck you. You just because you're too young to know what Pee Wee Herman is, goddammit. Me and Steve are old. That was our Saturday mornings.
I can't say that I sat there and watched him, but I know who he is.
I remember the thing.
Well, then he went off the rails a little bit. He didn't want to
I remember my mother told me what Pee Wee Herman did. And there was going to be no more Pee Wee's Playhouse. She called him a pedophile. I started fucking crying.
I remember I had the tape. My godmother bought me the tape when I was like 9, 10 years old, and like we just used to watch it over and over and just make fun of it because it was so stupid. But especially after he became a pedophile, I think we just started laughing at it even more because it was ridiculous.
It kind of it reminds me of that clip that Hoff sent you from.
He wasn't really a pedophile though. He was just
jacking off in a porn store.
He was in the movie theater. That's all.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, let's wrap up. I'm getting delirious here. I'm hungry.
Where the hell did you get that clip from?
I've had it.
Yeah,
that comes from the OBS studio.
Oh, nice.
All right,
we're still gonna get some more in here, some more sounds.
We're gonna
music.
We're gonna wrap up here.
Send us your sounds. Send us your sounds that you want to.
Yeah, let us know the clips. We'll throw them in. But we'll be back. Girls Gone Wild. Oh, can we wrap up? We'll be back Friday, live draft Friday, as always, which is what we've been doing here. We're going to start doing our ADP Mover Show weekly starting very soon. So a lot of great things happening, of course. Awesome videos dropping that aren't live, so check it out. But until Friday, for Steve, Pete, and myself, this is the Faceoff Sports Network. If you want to win, you have to tune in. We'll see you next time.